nobody wants AI. Everybody wants what AI can do for them.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, we're constantly bombarded with all of these tools that are promising us some sort of streamlined revolution of our business or an insane multiplier of revenue that we're going to look at if we implement it.
You're listening to Titans of the Trades. I'm your host, Ryan England, author of Hire Better People Faster and creator of the CoreFit Hiring System, a proven process to help growing companies attract and retain only the best. I'm on a mission to revolutionize the perception of the trades and elevate it to new heights. After growing up in a blue-collar family, my passion for making the trades cool again runs deep. If you're a titan in the industry and want to be on my show, stick around until the end and I'll reveal how you can be my next guest. I'm your host, Ryan England. Welcome back to another episode of Titans of the Trades. Today, I sit down with the CEO and founder of Powerhouse Consulting Group. They focus on helping you put in your field services management software and just make it sing. Make it do what it needs to do for your business so that you can focus on the things that are most important. But not only that, she grew up in the trades and her team is entirely comprised of people that were in the trades. So they know a thing or two about making this happen. They know about efficiency, effectiveness, productivity, whatever you need in your business right now, you're going to learn about it on today's episode. I want to welcome to today's show, Jenny Benbrook, the founder and CEO of Powerhouse Consulting Group. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
You know, I feel like we clicked a little bit as we were talking, preparing for this, and there's so many different directions we can take this show, but I want to think about our listeners for a second and think, what are the challenges that they're dealing with? What are the struggles that every owner operator out there has? We even talked about the fact that our own fathers are still working they're too busy in the business. They don't get to work on the business enough. And over at your company, you have a huge team of people to actually help these contractors focus on the things that are really important and find some extra efficiencies. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the operative word that you just used was efficiencies. And when we think about the struggles of an owner operator, it truly is that they find themselves doing everything for the business. And that's a result of being entrepreneurial. Starting a company and the scrappy mentality that goes into being an owner operator from zero to wherever you're growing to is you are wearing every hat. That's a phrase that we use a lot in our industry is I wear multiple hats, but the owner operators of these businesses truly do. And when you think about it, they are managing payroll, they're managing HR and recruiting, they're managing their pricing, they're managing their vendor relationships, and on and on and on. And what we've seen as the industry continues to evolve is an emergence of tools that are supposed to streamline or to alleviate some of these responsibilities or hats that an owner operator is wearing. But the reality of what's happening is they're creating additional overwhelm or burden because the tool in itself is all encompassing. I often say it's like a skilled trade on its own, where an owner operator can't just buy the tool, turn it on in their business and expect it to revolutionize or automatically streamline their processes. They actually have to know how to use it. They have to know what questions to ask. And it's very much an art form. And so you add that into the day-to-day of what a contractor is doing just to make the business run, just to keep the company profitable. And that's where we're seeing the greatest struggle or the greatest overwhelm is how do I successfully adopt technology into my business without it breaking me, the owner, or the very important people on my team that it usually falls down to?
You know, it's interesting as you're talking about how, and a lot of this software is marketed and sold as this is the holy grail to solve all your business problems.
Right.
And they get very excited about, but I've seen, I told you this earlier, I've seen more software implementations fail in my 15 years of doing this than I've seen succeed. And I know that's exactly why you and your team exist, is to support that. And I've seen it fail for two primary reasons, especially in the trades. These are the two things I see. Number one, the owner grew up in the trades when technology wasn't around. And so that mindset shift of not knowing everything, not having everything on a piece of paper or in a book scares them. And then the other thing I see is the aging workforce. You've got a whole bunch of boomers and really old Gen Xers out there saying, I don't even like my cell phone or social media. Now you want me to carry a tablet around and do this. And those two barriers have been, I mean, for almost all the software implementations that we've seen fail, it's usually one of those two things. What are your thoughts on that? And what are some things people can do to overcome just that mindset shift?
So really overcoming that mindset shift, or any mindset shift for that matter, is acceptance. And one of the things that, or one of the theories that we work on, is that we as humans, we co-evolve with our tools, and we have since inception. As technology enters the market, there's always an initial resistance, and it's funny that you called out this generation, because I am that generation that hates social media and hates my cell phone, but look at this business.
Yeah.
And that's because we've co-evolved. I myself have co-evolved in this industry, and I've seen many technological waves or advancements enter the trades. And every time it follows the same pattern, which is met with skepticism at first, perhaps even denial. This will never stick in our industry, right? We've done it this way for so long. Then we start getting into the, okay, I have no choice. I have to now try to evolve with this technology. So I'm going to try to learn it. And then we get to acceptance, which is, where are my strengths? How will I best utilize these tools? And what resources do I need to pull in to help me be as successful as I can be in using them?
Wow. So, I mean, you almost have to walk in their shoes for a minute and be able to see through their eyes to understand how to take them from where they are, and that resistance, that hesitation to look at how we can make this work. And
Right.
uh, can you share a time when you had someone who was super skeptical, like someone you worked with, or a business owner? It was like, this is never going to work. I'm wasting my money. I'm wasting my time. It's more work than it was before. Like all this stuff, that self-talk. But later, after working with you or going through the process, they're like, this was the best thing ever. And they just
Yeah.
became like a huge advocate for you and for maybe it's ServiceTitan or another software platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've said this numerous times. We founded Powerhouse 5 years ago. So still fairly a new company. However, I've been in the trades just under 20 years. And throughout my career, these past 5 years have been by far the most rewarding. And I've done some cool stuff in the industry. But what has made the work that we're doing here at Powerhouse so rewarding is that there is an overwhelm that our customers have when they come to us. And that overwhelm is coming from the sense of unknown. There are so many questions around these tools, and it's the I don't know what I don't know situation. And I will tell you, Ryan, that's probably what 95% of our clients come to us and say. They know certain parts of the software perhaps aren't being utilized the way that they should, or maybe they have some training opportunity, but they also know that there's so much more they can be doing with this software that they're not yet doing. And so what we're able to provide is that education, the awareness of, here's everything that you have going on. Here's what the tool can do. Here's how you're using it correctly. Here's where you're not. And here's some opportunity where we can advance into the tool, get more out of it. And when we're able to present that type of information to our clients, I always say this, it's almost like an audible sigh, like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense when they can see the bigger picture. And I'll tell a story that directly relates to this, from my own business here at Powerhouse. We recently migrated from a payroll software, a more simplistic payroll software, to a complex HR management platform. Of course, as our company grew, we had to expand and build our foundation to support that growth. We have so much insight and knowledge into how to get the most out of technology. This is literally what we do. We write the book on it for contractors. And my partner and I still today, 8 months after migrating to this software, are still finding little Easter egg surprises like, wow, I didn't know it could do that, because it's not the tool that we specialize in. We didn't know what questions to ask, and we had a fantastic implementation. We had a great onboarder with this company. We simply didn't know what to ask them. We didn't know what was available to us. And so we were able to implement just the surface level. And we find the same thing with our contractors when they're implementing FSM platforms. If they come to us after implementation, we're able to highlight the things that they may not have known to ask. We're able to really become ingrained with their business and think outside of the box of things that they're doing. For example, different ways to utilize features in the platform. One of my favorite stories is, and it's super simple, is a contractor that we had been working with for many years, and he was really getting a lot out of ServiceTitan. He was a top Titan advisor scoring contractor, and he utilized one of their pro products, Marketing Pro. And in one of our regular meetings, he said, hey, I've got my inside salesperson. I've just found out she's spending about 15 hours a week calling on aging AR, just calling on accounts receivable, because there was no one else in the office to do it. And so we said, how can we automate this? That's not a revenue producing activity that your inside salesperson should be doing. So how can we leverage your tech to do this? And what we did was created an audience in Marketing Pro that totally streamlined and automated those follow-ups, collecting, hundreds of open AR invoices, freeing up that 15 hours a week for revenue producing opportunity. So it's conversations like that where, as you mentioned, you really have to understand a contractor's business. You have to know what their unique strengths are, or their pain points, or their capacity limitations. And then you develop technology around those gaps. That's how you start to streamline a business.
I think that's great. I love the idea of let's explore and learn what more this can do for us.
Yeah.
Because when you don't know what you don't know, I mean, if you grew up around trades and not tech, sometimes you look at these things, you're like, it does what it's supposed to do, but you don't even know what it's supposed to do, right? And I see that happen a lot where people, they look to the software to be this holy grail to solve the business. They implement it just enough, and then their team burns out because implementation's not easy. And they're like, we're good enough. And then they complain about the software ongoing, or they start to distance themselves from it, or they spend 15 hours a week in AR calls because they don't realize there's a way to leverage the technology, the systems, the automation to make this happen. And so I think it's so great that there are people like you and your team that are serving the industry to help them with this, because I look at it this way. We talk a lot about recruiting the next generation. Right? It used to be the millennials we talked about. Now Gen Z is here. Gen Z grew up in a world where there are no cords on phones. They grew up in a world where if you want something, you ask the little speaker that's in your room. Like you don't even have to Google stuff anymore. Like that's total millennial stuff. Gen Z is like, we don't Google stuff, right? And if we want them to come into the trades, if we want to attract that next generation, we have to get on this technology bandwagon, because they don't know paper and pencil. They don't know the old way of doing things, and they don't want to do that because it's inefficient, causes lots of issues, and it's difficult for them to manage. So from even a recruiting perspective, if you're not planning to exit in the next 5 to 7 years, Gen Z is going to be here in full force. They're going to be in their early 30s. They're going to be putting down roots. And if you want to attract them into your company, you have to get on this technology bandwagon.
Yeah, well, and let's explore that, because I think it's relevant regardless of business goals. And we work with contractors that their goal is to build a legacy business where, you're talking about passing that on to children and grandchildren. And As you can imagine, we work with an emerging number of contractors who are building with the intent of selling. And regardless of your goal or your end goal, your exit strategy, technology is the foundation that's going to guide you to a successful exit. And when you're looking at structuring your business to sell, the ServiceTitan, of course, on the residential side is one of the most prominent platforms for that space. And that is an attractive asset to have correct data, to have accurate reporting that you can pull on. And if you're looking to legacy your business, one of the things that you have to think about is ensuring that you're not just utilizing that technology, but you also have processes in place. Because that generation, some of the other characteristics are limited attention span, right?
Yep.
And so they're not going to be patient as they're trying to relearn the same thing over and over. So having documented processes that will allow the company to scale and grow, that's going to be an expectation that goes along with technology that perhaps isn't spoken about as much. So it's not enough just to have the tech, but it's how are you managing it? Can you trust your data? Can you trust the reporting that you're pulling out of it? And that's what's really important when you're thinking about your long-term strategy.
Oh, I love that. The idea that they have that limited attention span. We had a client, they were years ago, they were a call center, and they found out that almost every metric across the board went up with their youngest generation when they let them watch Netflix on their phone while talking on the phone. Because they have such a limited attention span, the phone calls often don't go fast enough for them. So if they can have that thing that distracts them or keeps their attention, they actually had higher customer sat rates. The calls were solved sooner. Like all their metrics went up, and all they had to do was that. But while the call center manager was on board, the owner was like, "No, we got a job to do. We got to do this." But there's just something about the way I think this is getting into the probably more medical stuff, but I truly believe that when you're raised in an environment where there's a million different messages coming at you, your brain gets adapted to that. And when the messages stop, you kind of freak out a little bit. And this is something that I see when someone in the young generation shows up for day one, if that manager does not have a plan to keep them engaged and keep them moving along, and they see progress almost like to the minute, they're like, oh, I don't want to be here. These guys don't have their act together.
That's right.
Exactly what you're speaking to with the processes, the planning, the software, the technology. Well, hey, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I was going to expand on that because we're also seeing that that is the state of technology. So outside of as owner operators, our responsibility to build a foundation for our team members, either to onboard or to successfully run their positions. What is happening to us, not just in the industry, everywhere. I mean, technology is booming, but especially in the trades industry, there is a tech solution for everything. And contractors are constantly marketed to daily email marketing, social media, the next big influencer. Everyone is saying you have to have this tool. It will 10x your revenue. AI is at the top of every contractor owner's mind. How everybody wants AI, right? Well, actually, nobody wants AI. Everybody wants what AI can do for them. Yeah. And so if you think about that, we're constantly bombarded with all of these tools that are promising us some sort of streamlined revolution of our business, or, an insane multiplier of revenue that we're going to look at if we implement it. And so what's happening is contractors with the best of intentions are buying these tools. They're saying, okay, I'm going to get this one. I'm going to get this one. My buddy told me about this one. And they're buying it with the intention of growing their business and making a more profitable business, but they're doing so without an intentional plan behind it. And so a lot of what we see are misuse tools, redundancies in tech offerings. That's probably one of the most problematic issues that we see is contractors, again, not knowing everything these tools can provide. And so they buy third-party tools that perhaps their primary FSM already does. And so we see a lot of wasted spend, a lot of inefficiency, and ultimately a lot of frustrated team members because they're inundated with new tools. They don't have a plan. They're not well trained on it, but they're expected to master it. And that right in there is like a dopamine decreaser. If you want to demoralize your team, give them a tool and don't tell them how to use it, but expect them to use it, right? And so where we come in is we want to take more of a common sense approach to harnessing technology for contractors, really helping them to get the most out of these awesome tools that are available to them by thoughtfully understanding what is applicable to their business today, what tools do they need to grow, and most importantly, Ryan, what is the playbook on how to get the most out of these tools? How will you implement them? Who's your internal champion? How will you read the reports? Really helping that process adoption to take place in a sustainable manner, as opposed to just throwing that spaghetti at the wall and seeing what works.
Yeah. It's interesting. As you were talking, I was thinking about this. And so often I hear owners especially say, well, they just need to be able to figure it out, right? Like they're skilled, they should be able to figure it out. And I think about this idea of training people, or here's a new tool, a new piece of software, and just go figure it out. And I think about tools in the most physical sense. I think of a hammer. Mm-hmm. You give a hammer to a master carpenter, someone that has all the skills, all the training, all the processes, everything else, they turn it into a very successful business. You give that exact same tool that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to that master carpenter, to my 8-year-old son, and it costs me a bunch of money because he doesn't have the training and the processes and the skills and all that other stuff. And if we need our businesses to continue to grow, we can't expect to always be hiring master carpenters. Right. We are going to hire people that have never even held a hammer before. That's why we have apprenticeship programs. And if we don't teach them everything they need to know step by step, we're setting ourselves up for not only failure, but a costly failure at that. And I think that's a lot of times what we see with the software implementations is they should just be able to figure it out. Why do we have to develop all this stuff? Why do we have to do all these processes? Why do we have to train them? And that's akin to giving my 8-year-old a hammer and saying, build me something.
That's right. That's right. And these are, so, technology can very much be thought of as a living, breathing member of your team because it's continuously evolving and your teams are continuously evolving and changing. And so the idea of creating thoughtful workflows, understanding how you'll use technology and documenting those processes, what it allows you to do is to grow your company at scale so that team members can move internally. And then as the software changes, it doesn't crumble the entire house because you have a foundation in place. So the software will evolve, a new update will come out, and you're not going to have to rebuild everything, but maybe make minor tweaks to a process that you have in place. But the idea is you're documented and you're organized so that when these changes occur, they're manageable. If you lose, for example, we one of our primary specialties, just because it's probably one of the most complex features in a contractor's FSM is inventory. We do a lot of inventory implementation for different modules with our FSMs. I can't tell you the number of owner operators that have contacted us and in total desperation say, my warehouse manager just quit. No notice. No one has any idea how to run the inventory process because only one person in that organization held the knowledge. That's extremely risky because life happens. People move, people change, companies change. You have to make sure that you have these processes in place so that when change occurs, your foundation stays in place. You don't crumble. You can easily transition out in a streamlined fashion without wrecking numbers or business or losing revenue.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Well, hey, as we get ready to wrap up, I've got a question that you've alluded to a couple of times. And then you said, think of these software platforms like an team member, like an extension of your team. And I know there's a lot of people out there pushing AI to start thinking of AI, these different bots as extensions of your team and team members. I'd love to know, what are your thoughts on the future of AI as it relates to the trades? Where do you think it's going? And say, well, I was going to say 5 years, but that's way too long. We have no idea. Where's it going to be 6 months from now? Like, what do you think the future is and how that's going to incorporate into these software platforms and just make the companies that adopt AI along with this software just that much more powerful in the industry?
Well, so that's exactly what's going to happen is the companies that begin adopting AI and adopt technology intentionally will have a leg up in terms of competition. So you mentioned it earlier. What is the state of consumerism today? Consumers expect this level of service powered by technology. So instant replies when somebody fills out a website submission, right? If I'm a consumer and I live in Austin, Texas, so, it is hot during the summer. If I fill out a web inquiry for 5 different HVAC companies, I'm probably going to go with one of the first ones that call me back.
Whoever answers the phone.
Yes,
Yes.
this is an HVAC emergency. It is hot.
Yes.
That's my expectation. I have very little patience. I'm not going to wait 2 days or 3 days. And so what technology empowers our business is to better care for customers and to meet them where they need to be. And then if you're really excelling at technology, you're utilizing it to empower your teams. And that's something that I think most businesses aren't fully harnessing yet. So when I think about AI and the future of AI in the trades, there's a fear that it's going to eliminate jobs, right? Especially, let's think about like call center jobs or even technicians diagnosing systems. There's a fear that technology is going to eliminate these positions. HVAC, the home services trades industry, this is a people-centric business. People are never leaving this industry. Technology will change the way we work. It will enhance our jobs, but it will never eliminate. So number one, technology is here to stay, but so are the people. And the advice is prepare to embrace how AI will change your company and change your role and embrace it. So from an owner operator standpoint, are you leveraging technology to better coach your technicians, to improve conversion rates? Are you using AI sentiment analysis to help train your call centers, to help them convert better, or to provide excellent customer service for every prospective customer that calls in? So it's really understanding, how am I going to adopt these tools or these bots to enhance the people that I have working for me? And that's the way to think about it in the trades, because people are here to stay, but so is technology.
Yeah. We're a long ways away before cyborgs are going to come into your house and do some preventative maintenance. Absolutely. Well, Jenny, this has been great. You've got a wealth of knowledge over there, and I know you have a huge team over there supporting you in all of this as well. Tell us a little bit more about how to get a hold of you. And then you also have an offer for our listeners. Talk about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, you mentioned our team. I want to just highlight them, if I may, for a moment.
You bet.
Our team here at Powerhouse, we are a team of 30 consultants certified in technology for the trades. But what is most unique is that each one of our team members comes from within the trades. When my partner and I first founded Powerhouse, we understood that the subject matter expertise we provided contractors on getting the most out of technology was important. But what really enhanced it and made it applicable was our trades experience. having worked for and with contractors. And so that was a hiring best practice that we carried forward. So I love talking about our team because they're the heart and soul of what we do. They work with our contractors relentlessly, day in and day out, on technological solutions, how to create those efficiencies and streamline the operations of a contractor's business. But the by product of doing that, one thing that we've learned, and I've alluded to this over our discussion, one thing that we've learned over the years is that contractors have a lot of questions about a tech stack for their business. Where do they have gaps in their tech stack? Where are they not utilizing their tech efficiently? Where can they improve? Or what is the market using? That's something that we love in this industry, is to know what our competitors are doing. Yeah. And so what we've developed is a power stack audit that allows a contractor to complete a form and self-assess where they currently stand with their tech stack. Are they identifying any gaps in certain departmental areas of their business? Do they have a good handle on where they're spending, what the ROI is? So we've developed an assessment that walks through those questions and provides a report to the contractor that highlights areas of improvement. So that's completely free. And that audit is available by going to our website, mypowerhouse.group, and scroll to the contractor resource planning tab. So again, that's mypowerhouse.group. Go to contractor resource planning, and you'll find the link to complete that free technology assessment.
All right. I just clicked on it myself. It's super easy to find. So Jenny, thank you so much for being on the show today. Like I said, just some great information about software in general and what we need to do to incorporate into our businesses and how we can get there. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Ryan England here. Thank you so much for listening to Titans of the Trades. If you're a Titan in the construction, manufacturing, or skilled trades industry and would like to be a guest on my show, please visit podcast.corematters.com. If you found value in this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot on your phone and share it with a friend or post it on social. And if you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Titans of the Trades. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, click the subscribe button. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and get me one step closer to solving the labor crisis facing the industry. Want to know more about how we're doing that? Go to our website or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.